Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving into something really special. If you've been following the electric vehicle space, you know that Polestar has been quietly building a reputation for creating some seriously compelling EVs. And now, they're about to drop what might be their most ambitious project yet. I'm talking about the 2026 Polestar 5, and let me tell you, this thing is absolutely stunning. So grab your favorite beverage, get comfortable, and let's explore what could be one of the most exciting electric sedans to hit the market. Now, before we jump into all the juicy details, let me just say that the Polestar 5 represents something really significant for the brand. This isn't just another EV rolling off the production line. This is Polestar's flagship, their statement piece. The car that's supposed to put them in the conversation with the big players like Porsche, Tesla, and Lucid. And honestly, after looking at everything this car brings to the table, I think they might just pull it off. Let's start with the origin story because it's actually pretty cool. The Polestar 5 didn't just appear out of nowhere. It's based on the Precept concept car that Polestar revealed back in 2020. And if you remember that concept, you'll know it was absolutely jaw-dropping. The good news? Polestar has stayed incredibly faithful to that original design. Sure, they had to make some practical changes for production, like switching from those wild rear-hinged doors to conventional ones. But the overall look is remarkably close to what they showed us 5 years ago. And that's rare in the automotive world. Usually concept cars get watered down significantly by the time they reach production, but not this one. So what are we looking at here? Well, the Polestar 5 is a four-door electric Grand Tourer, and those last two words are really important. This isn't trying to be a sports car, and it's not trying to be a luxury sedan in the traditional sense. It's a Grand Tourer, which means it's designed for eating up miles in style and comfort while still delivering serious performance when you want it. Think of it as the electric equivalent of cars like the Porsche Panamera or the Audi RS7. It's meant to be a car you can drive across the country in total comfort, but also a car that can put a huge smile on your face when you find a twisty road. The exterior design is absolutely striking. It sits low and wide with this really aggressive stance that just screams performance. Up front, you've got those distinctive Thor's Hammer LED daytime running lights that are becoming a signature Polestar design element. They've refined them for the 5, giving them a more modern, split headlight look that's really eye-catching. And because it's an EV, there's no traditional grille, just clean, sculpted surfaces that help with aerodynamics. One of the most distinctive features has to be the rear end. The Polestar 5 actually doesn't have a traditional rear window. Now, before you start worrying about visibility, hear me out. Instead of a rear window, there's this gorgeous sloped design that gives the car an incredibly sleek profile. But how do you see what's behind you? Well, Polestar has equipped the 5 with a digital rearview mirror, just like they did with the Polestar 4. A camera on the back of the car feeds a live image to a display where your rearview mirror would normally be, and honestly, it actually provides better visibility than a traditional mirror in many situations. Plus, it allows Polestar to create this stunning fastback design with a super clean rear end. The taillights stretch across the full width of the car and drop sharply at the edges, creating this really distinctive light signature. It's the kind of car that you'll recognize instantly in your rearview mirror. And I mean that in the best possible way. The whole car measures just over 200 inches in length, so it's a substantial vehicle, roughly the size of a Porsche Panamera. But despite its size, it looks incredibly sleek and aerodynamic. Every surface has been sculpted with airflow in mind because when you're designing an electric car, aerodynamics directly impact range. The more efficiently you can slip through the air, the farther you can go on a charge. Now let's talk about what's underneath all that gorgeous bodywork, because this is where things get really interesting. The Polestar 5 introduces what the company calls the Polestar Performance Architecture, or PPA for short. This is the first platform that Polestar has developed completely in-house, and it's a pretty significant technological achievement. The structure is made from bonded aluminum, and I know that might sound technical and boring, but stick with me because it's actually really cool. See, most car manufacturers use spot welding to join aluminum panels together. Polestar is using a bonding process instead, where the panels are actually glued and riveted together. Why does this matter? Well, this bonding process creates a stiffer, stronger structure than traditional welding. It also doesn't compromise the heat treatment of the aluminum, which means the material maintains its full strength. The result is a car that's both incredibly rigid, which is great for handling, and relatively light for its size. I say relatively because with that massive battery pack under the floor, the 5 still tips the scales at around 5,600 pounds, but that's actually pretty good for a high-performance electric sedan. And here's something I really appreciate. Polestar is using recycled aluminum for about 13% of the structure, and 83% of the overall aluminum was produced using renewable energy, so they're not just talking about sustainability, they're actually building it into the car from the ground up. Speaking of that battery, let's dive into the power and performance because this is where the Polestar 5 really starts to flex its muscles. The car comes in two different configurations, the dual motor and the performance. Both versions use two electric motors, one on the front axle and one on the rear, giving you all-wheel drive. But the power outputs are very different. The standard dual motor version produces 748 horsepower and 599 pound-feet of torque. Just let that sink in for a second. 748 horsepower. That's absolutely massive, and Polestar says it'll get you from 0 to 60 miles per hour in just 3.8 seconds. That's supercar territory, folks. But if you're the kind of person who thinks that's not quite enough, there's the performance version, which cranks things up to an absolutely bonkers 884 horsepower and 749 pound-feet of torque. With the performance trim, you're looking at a 0 to 60 time of just 3.1 seconds. That's genuinely Tesla plaid territory. Both versions are electronically limited to a top speed of 155 miles per hour, which is probably more than you'll ever need on public roads anyway. Now, here's a really clever feature that both versions share. The rear motor can actually disconnect when you don't need all that power, so if you're just cruising down the highway, the car can become essentially a front-wheel drive vehicle, which reduces drag and improves efficiency. Then when you need all-wheel drive or maximum performance, the rear motor instantly reconnects. It's a seamless process that helps maximize your range without any compromise in performance when you want it. The battery powering all this is a 112 kilowatt-hour pack, with 106 kilowatt-hours of that being usable. It's a nickel-manganese-cobalt or NMC, lithium-ion battery supplied by SK On, and it uses some really interesting technology. The individual battery cells are absolutely massive, measuring about 22 inches long. That's enormous compared to the small cylindrical cells you find in a Tesla, or the smaller pouch cells in many other EVs. Why go with such big cells? Well, larger cells mean fewer overall cells are needed to create the pack, which means less space is wasted on cell casings and more space can be used for actual energy storage. It's all about energy density. The battery system runs on an 800-volt architecture, which is becoming the gold standard for high-performance EVs. What does 800 volts get you? Speed, charging speed, that is. The Polestar 5 can handle DC fast charging at up to 350 kilowatts. Find one of those ultra-fast chargers, and Polestar claims you can charge from 10 to 80% in just 22 minutes. That's genuinely impressive. Even on a more typical 150 kilowatt fast charger, you're still looking at very respectable charging times. Now let's talk about range because that's always the big question with electric vehicles, right? Polestar hasn't released official EPA range estimates yet, but we do have European WLTP figures to give us an idea. According to those numbers, the dual-motor version should achieve around 416 miles of range, while the performance version with its more powerful motors comes in at about 351 miles. Now, EPA ratings tend to be more conservative than WLTP, so we're probably looking at something closer to 330 to 350 miles for the dual motor, and around 300 miles for the performance when the official US numbers come out. Those are solid figures that put it right in the competitive range with cars like the Porsche Taycan and Tesla Model S. Let's step inside because the interior of the Polestar 5 is where that Scandinavian design philosophy really shines through. If you've been in any modern Polestar or Volvo, you'll recognize the minimalist, clean approach, but the 5 takes it to another level. The cabin is designed primarily as a 4-seater, though there is technically room for a 5th person in a pinch. The front seats are absolutely gorgeous Recaro-designed performance seats that sit really low, giving you that proper sports car driving position. These aren't just for show either. They're supposed to provide excellent support during spirited driving while still being comfortable for long-distance cruising. What you'll notice immediately is the quality of the materials. Everything feels premium and carefully chosen. Polestar is using what they call Bridge of Weir leather, which is chrome-free and traceable, meaning they know exactly where it comes from, and that it meets strict animal welfare standards. It's available in a couple of different colors, charcoal and zinc, both of which look sophisticated. But if you want something even more sustainable, there's a vegan option called bio-attributed microtech that's practically indistinguishable from real leather. It's made from recycled materials, and you'd honestly never know it wasn't the real thing just by touching it. The rear seats mirror the design of the front and offer their own set of impressive features. You get individual recline functions, heating, ventilation, and even massage functions controlled through a dedicated touchscreen. Yes, you read that right. The rear passengers get their own touchscreen to control their comfort settings. There are 4 massage modes in the front seats and 5 in the rear, with up to 3 levels of intensity. This is genuinely luxury grand tourer stuff. One of the really clever design elements is how they've dealt with the battery pack under the floor. There's actually a cutout in the battery behind the front seats, which allows the rear seats to sit lower and provides much more generous headroom than you'd expect given that sloping roofline. And speaking of the roof, there's a massive panoramic glass roof that stretches behind the rear passengers' heads. It blocks 99.5% of UV radiation and is designed to reduce heat and light, so the cabin stays comfortable even on sunny days. Storage is actually pretty good too. In the back, you've got 365 liters of cargo space, which translates to about 13 cubic feet. That's not enormous, but it's reasonable for a car of this type. And then there's a front trunk, or frunk, under the hood with another 62 liters or about 2 cubic feet of space. Perfect for storing charging cables and smaller items you want to keep separate from your main luggage. The technology inside is really impressive too. The driver gets a 9-inch digital gauge cluster that's mounted directly to the adjustable steering column, so it moves with the steering wheel. There's also a 9.5-inch head-up display that projects information onto the windshield right in your line of sight. The main infotainment system uses a 14.5-inch portrait-oriented touchscreen mounted in the center of the dashboard. It runs Polestar's version of Android Automotive OS with Google built in, which means you get native Google Maps, Google Assistant, and access to the Google Play Store right in your car. No need to plug in your phone for basic functionality. If you're an audiophile, you're going to want the optional Bowers & Wilkins sound system. This isn't just your average premium audio setup. We're talking about a 21-speaker system with 1,680 watts of power and something called tweeter-on-top technology. Basically, there are tweeters mounted on top of the dashboard that create this incredibly immersive soundstage. Polestar has also included active road noise cancellation, which uses microphones to detect road noise and then plays inverse sound waves through the speakers to cancel it out. The result is an incredibly quiet, serene cabin, which is exactly what you want in a grand tourer. There are tons of other thoughtful details throughout the cabin. The ambient lighting uses either minimalist white or Swedish gold LED lights integrated into the instrument panel and door sides. There's a particulate matter sensor that monitors the outside air for dust, pollution, and pollen particles, as small as 2.5 micrometers, and uses the cabin filter to keep them out. You can even precondition the climate control system using the center display or the Polestar app before you get in the car. And if you're taking a long break during a road trip, there's a keep climate mode that can stay on for up to 8 hours, or until the battery drops below 20%. Now let's talk about how this thing drives, because ultimately that's what matters most in a car like this. While we haven't had a chance to do a full road test ourselves yet, early reports from automotive journalists who've driven pre-production prototypes have been really positive. The bonded aluminum structure provides exceptional rigidity, which is the foundation for great handling. The dual-motor version comes with passive dampers from BWI, while the performance trim gets adaptive MagnaRide dampers that can adjust their firmness in milliseconds based on road conditions and driving style. The front brakes are 4-piston Brembo calipers on both models, which are anodized on the dual motor and finished in Swedish gold on the performance. These are serious stopping power for a car with this much performance. The tires are specially developed Michelin rubber ranging from 20 to 22 inches, designed specifically to work with the Polestar 5's weight and power characteristics. Early test drives suggest the car strikes a really impressive balance. Despite weighing nearly 3 tons, the 5 reportedly feels agile and responsive, with quick steering and excellent body control. The low center of gravity, thanks to that floor-mounted battery, helps it feel planted and stable in corners. But it's also supposed to be comfortable, with a compliant ride quality that soaks up bumps without feeling floaty or disconnected. That's exactly what you want in a grand tourer, a car that can be a comfortable cruiser 1 minute and a backroad weapon the next. So who is this car competing with? Well, Polestar is clearly aiming for the top tier of the electric luxury sedan market. The most obvious rivals are cars like the Porsche Taycan, which has been the benchmark for electric sports sedans. The Taycan Turbo S makes 750 horsepower, so the Polestar 5 performance actually has it beat on power. Then there's the Lucid Air, which offers incredible range and a stunningly luxurious interior. The Tesla Model S, particularly in plaid trim, is still a performance monster that's hard to beat on acceleration and technology. You've also got cars like the Audi S e-tron GT, which shares a platform with the Taycan, and the Mercedes-AMG EQS, which leans more toward luxury than sport. It's seriously competitive company, and honestly, that's exciting. Each of these cars has its own character and strengths. The Polestar 5's challenge will be to establish itself as a legitimate player in this space. It's got the performance credentials, the styling is absolutely gorgeous, and the technology seems to be there. The big question will be whether the Polestar brand has enough cachet and reputation to convince buyers to choose it over a Porsche or a Tesla. Now, let's address the elephant in the room. Pricing. Polestar hasn't released official US pricing yet, but we can make some educated guesses based on information from other markets. In the UK, the Polestar 5 is priced at $89,500, which converts to around $120,000. Most estimates suggest the US price will start somewhere between $100,000 and $140,000 for the base dual motor, with the performance likely adding another $20,000 to $30,000 on top of that. So we're probably looking at a price range of roughly $100,000 to $160,000 fully loaded. Now, I know that's a lot of money, but let's put it in context. A base Porsche Taycan starts at about $99,000, but that's the rear-wheel drive version with significantly less power. Once you start adding options and moving up the trim levels to get closer to the Polestar 5's performance, you can easily end up well over $150,000. The Tesla Model S starts cheaper at around $75,000, but the Plaid with comparable performance is over $90,000. The Lucid Air in comparable Grand Touring trim starts at nearly $110,000. So while the Polestar 5 isn't cheap, it's priced competitively within its segment. What about availability? Here's where things get a bit complicated. The Polestar 5 is already available to order in some markets, and it was officially revealed at the 2025 Munich Motor Show. It's launching in 24 of the 28 markets where Polestar operates. Unfortunately for US buyers, America isn't one of those initial launch markets. The current expectation is that we'll see the Polestar 5 arrive in US showrooms sometime in late 2025 or early 2026, so we're probably looking at it being a 2026 model year vehicle here. Polestar hasn't given us firm dates or pricing for the US market yet, but they've confirmed it's coming. So how does the Polestar 5 compare to previous Polestar models? Well, it's a huge step forward in several ways. The Polestar 2, which has been the brand's volume seller, is a really solid compact electric sedan that competes more in the entry-level luxury space. It's quick, stylish, and well-made, but it's not trying to be a performance flagship. The Polestar 3 and Polestar 4 are both SUVs, and while they're impressive vehicles with strong performance and lots of technology, they're fundamentally different types of cars. The Polestar 5 is really the brand's first true halo car, since the limited production Polestar 1 plug-in hybrid coupe. That car was stunning and incredibly powerful, making 619 horsepower from its hybrid powertrain, but only about 2,500 were built and it cost over $150,000. The Polestar 5 is meant to fill that flagship role while being more accessible and practical. It's fully electric rather than hybrid. It seats 4 or 5 people comfortably instead of just 2, and it should be produced in much larger numbers. What really sets the 5 apart from its siblings is the bespoke platform. The 2, 3, and 4 all share platforms with Volvo models, which is fine and helps keep costs down, but the 5's unique architecture allows for design and engineering choices that simply weren't possible with a shared platform. The bonded aluminum structure, the way the battery is integrated, the proportions of the car, all of this was designed specifically for the 5 without having to compromise for other vehicles. Let me talk about something that I think is really important but sometimes gets overlooked: sustainability. Polestar has been really serious about reducing the environmental impact of their cars, and the 5 pushes this even further. Beyond the recycled aluminum in the structure and the use of renewable energy in production, there are sustainable materials throughout the interior. The carpeting is made from recycled materials, including repurposed old fishing nets. The bioattributed Microtech upholstery is made from recycled PET. Even the decorative panels use natural fiber composites made from flax fiber. This isn't just greenwashing either. Polestar publishes detailed sustainability reports for their vehicles, breaking down the carbon footprint of production, use, and eventual recycling. They're one of the few automakers being this transparent about the environmental impact of their cars. And while electric vehicles obviously produce zero tailpipe emissions during use, the production and battery manufacturing still have environmental costs. So minimizing those impacts through material choices and renewable energy is genuinely important. One of the things I'm most curious about with the Polestar 5 is how it'll handle real-world driving over time. Early prototype drives suggest the car has excellent build quality and refinement, but we won't really know how it holds up until regular customers have been driving them for a while. Polestar's warranty coverage follows industry standards. A basic warranty that should cover the car for several years and a separate battery warranty that will likely guarantee a certain percentage of battery capacity for 8 years or 100,000 miles or more. Those are pretty typical for the industry these days. Charging infrastructure is also an important consideration. While the 5's 800-volt architecture allows for incredibly fast charging speeds, you can only take advantage of that if you have access to 350-kilowatt chargers. Right now, those are still relatively rare, though the infrastructure is expanding rapidly. The good news is that Polestar vehicles have access to Tesla's supercharger network in the US, which dramatically expands your charging options for road trips. We don't know yet whether the US spec Polestar 5 will come with Tesla's NACS charging port standard, or will use the CCS standard with an adapter, but either way, you'll have access to Tesla's extensive charging network. Let's talk about advanced driver assistance systems because that's becoming increasingly important in this segment. Polestar hasn't released all the details on the 5's ADAS suite yet, but we know it includes a comprehensive sensor setup. There are 11 vision cameras, 1 driver monitoring camera, 1 mid-range radar, and 12 ultrasonic sensors. The structure also incorporates something called Smart Zone technology that houses additional sensors, radar, and cameras. We've seen Polestar working on unsupervised highway driving features in the Polestar 3, so it's reasonable to expect the flagship 5 will have even more advanced capabilities. This could include things like adaptive cruise control with lane keeping, automatic emergency braking, blind spot monitoring, and possibly more advanced hands-off highway driving features. The exact feature set will likely depend on your market and trim level, but as the flagship, the 5 should represent Polestar's most advanced technology offerings. So what's my overall take on the 2026 Polestar 5? Honestly, I'm genuinely excited about this car. It represents a huge step forward for Polestar as a brand, showing that they can compete directly with established luxury performance brands on their own terms. The design is absolutely stunning and faithful to that gorgeous Precept concept. The performance credentials are genuinely impressive with up to 884 horsepower available. The range should be adequate for real-world use and the charging speeds are excellent. The interior looks beautiful and thoughtfully designed with high-quality materials and lots of technology. But perhaps most importantly, the Polestar 5 has character. It's not trying to be a Tesla with a different badge. It's not trying to be a Porsche clone. It's distinctly Scandinavian in its approach, emphasizing minimalism, sustainability, and thoughtful design, alongside that serious performance. That's a compelling combination that should appeal to buyers who want something different from the usual suspects. Will it be successful? That's the big question. Polestar is still a relatively young brand, and they're competing in a segment dominated by names with decades of prestige behind them. But I think they've got a real shot. The product looks genuinely competitive, and sometimes that's all it takes. If the driving experience lives up to the specifications and the build quality holds up over time, the Polestar 5 could become the sleeper hit of the electric luxury sedan segment. The timing is interesting too. We're at this inflection point in the automotive industry, where electric vehicles are moving beyond early adopters into the mainstream luxury market. Buyers in this segment want style, performance, and sophistication, and they're increasingly open to electric powertrains. The Polestar 5 hits the market right at this perfect moment when the infrastructure is improving, battery technology is mature, and buyers are ready for what it offers. So should you be excited about the 2026 Polestar 5? If you're in the market for a high-performance luxury electric sedan, absolutely. This is a car that deserves to be on your shortlist alongside the Taycan, the Lucid Air, and the Model S. Each of those cars has its own strengths, and the Polestar 5 brings its own unique combination of Scandinavian design, serious performance, and thoughtful sustainability to the table. It's gorgeous to look at. It'll be exhilarating to drive, and it should be comfortable and refined for everyday use. That's exactly what a Grand Tourer should be. We can't wait to get our hands on a production version and really put it through its paces with a full road test. There's nothing quite like spending real time with a car to understand its character and quirks. But based on everything we know so far, Polestar seems to have created something really special with the 5. It's a proper flagship that should elevate the entire brand. Thanks so much for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the Polestar 5, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss future videos. Drop a comment below and let me know what you think. Are you excited about the Polestar 5? How do you think it stacks up against the competition? And what would you want to know if we got to test drive one? I love hearing from you all, and your feedback helps shape the content we create. Until next time, stay charged and I'll see you in the next video.